Hi, it's been a while. Yeah, sorry for not posting for like a month. Actually, I'm not sorry. We're living a very unprecedented moment in American history, so I'm gonna give myself a bit of a break there. Also, I have Baby Yoda, also known as the Child, because I got to rig the first ever Baby Yoda in video game history. So if you missed the update on my LinkedIn, please check it out. I'm very proud of the fact that I got to rig Baby Yoda in IG-11. I do want to show more about it at some point, but I have to get permission from my lead and also Lucasfilms, I guess. So that's fun. But he's going to be here with me as we do our rigging tutorial for today. Speaking of which, today we are going to be talking about the twist setup again because I think last time I didn't do enough of a good job explaining it in the ARM. The output of my video was also kind of hard to see, so I'm hoping that right now it's easier to see whatever is on my screen. And before we get into it, I want to talk about the setup on a high level using a diagram. I'm gonna be talking about the lower leg as an example, but the same thing applies to the upper leg or upper arm or whatever you're doing. The first thing we're gonna do is create new joints that are going to hold new skinning information, and all these joints are going to be equally spaced. They're also going to be mimicking the joint orientation of the original, and that's important because it's going to dictate many of our connections in the node editor later. After we create the bind chain, we're going to duplicate this and we're going to call it a twist chain. The twist chain is going to be controlled by an IK spline handle which creates a curve, and we can modify the transforms of the twist joints by moving the control vertex of the curve around. In order to move the control vertex around, we're going to be creating cluster deformers that move the control vertex. But wait, there's more. Because these clusters are also difficult to select, we're going to be creating these control curves that are going to be controlling these clusters. The clusters move the control vertex moves the twist chain moves the translation and the bind chain. And that's just for translation. Rotation is a whole different schnozzle. Now hear me out. We're going to have two different setups controlling the rotation of the bind joints. We're going to have the foot controlling the joint rotation in X, which is basically us mimicking the supination and pronation of our arm or leg. And we're going to add that output to the rotation of the control so that even though these joints are being rotated naturally by the foot or the hand, the animator still has some control over the rotation of those joints as well. And that will be done using a very simple add double linear node, I think it's what it's called. But anyway, this is it. I hope the diagram and explaining things in the beginning of the video was helpful. Let's get into it. Okay, for our diagram, first thing we're gonna do is create the joint chain on top of the original one. So let's hide some of this stuff. I'm gonna duplicate, or should I make a new joint entirely? I think duplicating is just easier. Let's delete all the stuff. What did I call these guys? Okay. So let's call this lower, actually this is the upper leg bind one joint. And I'm going to duplicate this a few more times. 3, 4. Let's put them on top of each other. Okay. Now what's the distance between this joint and this joint? Because we want the bind joints to be equally spaced. So the knee... Oh, great! 4 units away. That makes my life a lot easier. Spoiler alert, it didn't. So each of these are going to be translated by 4. Oh no, that's not gonna be it. Okay. 4. Or 1. Hold on a minute. So 1 point. Oh, that's such an ugly number. 1.3333. Okay, that works for us. Now that we have our bind chain, let's duplicate it again. And instead of bind, let's make our twist joint, just like in our diagram. Modify, instead of bind, I want a twist. And this is where the fun begins. Let's create a spline IK handle. And that should be good with the default settings from here to here. So you created a curve and an IK handle. Let's see what the curve looks like. How many control vertex it has. One for each joint, which works perfectly for us. So this is the name of the curve. I'm gonna call it leg spline curve. And what do they call the handle? Perfect. Now let's put both of these guys over here. Hide the handle for now. We're gonna need to create the clusters for the curve. So go into control vertex mode, select one of them, go to deform and cluster, and do the same for all of these guys. Cool. I also want to name my cluster something nice. Oh, was this supposed to be 0? I think this was supposed to be 0. Let me fix that real quick. Cool, yeah. Let's also parent the clusters to the extras group. Okay. Beautiful. Next, let's make some controls for these bad boys. Let me make square using curve tool. Square, 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 square. What did I call these guys? Let's call you per leg. Oh, the ice cream truck is here. Duplicate to make marker draws. And now we can parent them to the joints, or align them to the joints rather. Okay, now that they are in place, delete the constraints. Let's make them bigger and rotate them if you have to. Make it bigger. No, let's compensate them. That's the word. Compensate. Modify. Control 1 with group. There you go. Nice and beautiful. I think I also put these in a group. Yeah, I put them in a group. And I called it upper leg rig. And that's gonna go into the extras group very soon as well. Let's also make them green, so it's easier to differentiate between the IK and FK controls. Okay, they're not doing anything right now because we have to constrain the clusters to them. And I believe we're only constraining the clusters translation. Yep, that's what it is. Let's do that. So you go to you, parent, maintain offset, sure, no rotate, only translate. Now you, your turn, and your turn. Let's test it. Beautiful. So I almost just cried because I thought, I didn't realize that my desktop audio was coming into the output of the video as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my Tibetan bowl singing for concentration. Anyway, we have our setup started, but you'll notice that if I move this control really far away, these joints detach from the rest of the leg. And that's one of the advantages of using the spline IK handle that creates a curve. We can use the arc length of that curve to expand the chain if the animator moves the control really far away. So we're gonna set that up right now using our node editor. Get a clean one. Let's load up the curve. Where are you, curve? Curve. There you go. And I think I only need the shape. I think it's the shape. Let me get my blog post to use as reference. So yeah, we're gonna use the shape of the curve. I'm gonna link this page in the description, by the way. Let's do a curve info node. And let's call it left leg curve info upper leg. And the world space 0 is gonna connect to the arc length of this guy, or the input curve rather, and then it's gonna spit out our arc length. Next, we're going to create a couple multiply divide nodes. I'm trying to focus, but I can't stop thinking about the Mandalorian episode I watched yesterday. I really like this season. Let's call it left upper leg limb scalar. Let's duplicate this and call this guy our div node. And we're gonna make Q a divide operation. And this is gonna be multiply, yes. So input 1x goes to arc length, which is, oh yeah, it's 4. Oh, such a wonderful number. 4 is a great number. 4. And then this guy gets connected to input 1x. This is going to be, input 2 is going to be 1. That's right. Output x is going to go into input 2, x of this guy. Ugh, this is so complicated. My brain is folding. So the division of this by this is going to be 1, which is what we want for now. The output x, and then we connect the output the output x of this to the scale x of the twist joints. Hello joints, how are you doing? Let me see your scale. Also note, it's the only reason we're plugging it into the scale x is because of the joint orientation of this chain. That's what I was talking about earlier, that the joint orientation of the original chain is going to determine what the connections of the nodes are going to be. So you can see x down the chain, so let's do that. So now if I move this control far away, it's modifying the length of the curve, and when that input gets fed into this node network, the scale of the joints changes, which is what we want. Beautiful, beautiful. I like when things work like I expect them to. I am back. I had to get some of the chili I made yesterday. Look at how good this chili looks. Okay, what are we doing next? Bring forth the diagram. Okay, Fernanda, you did this. You did this. It's time to make this. So now we're gonna set up the pronation and supination. So for the upper leg, let's open our node editor. We're gonna be using the rotation of the knee. Oh, that's the right leg. Bad. Left knee. We're gonna be using the rotation of the left knee to control the rotation of these other joints. So let's get rotate x, and let's do another multiply divide node. Let's call it left upper leg dim. Input 1x gonna be this rotation. Ooh. Oh, I hate these unit conversion nodes. They make everything messy. And input 2x is going to be 0.33. We're going to connect this into our bind joint 2. The rotation of upper leg bind joint 3 is going to be the same as the knee because it's right on top of it. We're gonna reuse this node to make the operation for bind joint 1. And as we know, 30% of 30% is 0.109. Connect rotate X to input on Y and output Y to rotate X of bind joint 1. Okay, so now bind joint 3 is on top of the knee that follows the same rotation as the knee. This one's going to be a little bit less, this one even less, and this one is not going to be affected by it at all. Put it back. Now we have this supination and pronation going on, but these are not doing anything. And we want the animator to be able to have some sort of control over the rotation of this part of the leg. So we're gonna add into that node network that we just made. Let's add a net double linear node. We're also gonna add this control. And basically we're gonna be adding the rotation X of this control to the rotation X of the knee joint. Need input to okay, now these are both plugged in and the output's gonna go to rotate X. I'm also going to connect the other rotates of the control in here. So now we can't see anything working because it's not skinned yet. But if we go into that joint, the upper leg bind joint has rotation happening. Okay, now let's do that for the other joints. Get a clean slab. I'm going to get bind joint 2 and this control. I'm not gonna need the shape. Open these guys up. The control went away. Let's re-add it real quick. Add double linear. Add the rotate to input 1. Get this output X in here as well. I can delete this. The output goes to rotate X. And the control is gonna go to rotate Y and rotate Z. So now if I rotate this control, the joint should also have rotation. Wonderful. We're going to constrain the bind joint to the twist joint only in translate. So this guy to this guy, only translate, maintain offset, sure. This guy and this guy, this guy and this guy, this guy and this guy. Now let's see. Nice, 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 nice. Everything seems to be working. Cool. We're also going to constrain this group to, I believe, the leg joint. What did I do in the arm? Yep, let's do that. So where's my leg joint? Leg. Here you are. Constrain this guy. Maintain offset. Now let's put this guy under the root for now. Oh, I don't have a root, that's right. Let's put it on the controls group. And you are gonna go into our extras group. Another thing we have to do is add a visibility switch to this setup. So let's do that real quick. Pull, and I think for this one I made it a boolean. Yep, made it a boolean. Add. Go to our connection editor. Reload. Nipple, and let's plug in the visibility of that group over here. Where is the visibility? Right here. So now let's see if it's following our FK and IK setups. It should, because we just constrained it. Nice. Let me skin this real quick so I can show you it working. Okay, I did some very dirty skinning just to show you how it works. So here we can translate. It expands if we move it really far away. You also can rotate it. I apologize for the really rough skinning. Let's see if there's any other cleanup we have to do. I think that was it. And basically for the lower leg, you would do the exact same thing. That's what we did in the arm at least. Let's see, FK. So after doing an entire afternoon of digging and seeing this problem for the first time in my life, even though I've done this setup like more than 10 times, I finally figured out how to solve it. So remember when we connected the rotation Y and Z of this control directly into the joints? Yeah, don't do that. We're going to do something more stupid. We're going to do a parent constraint. And for upper leg 0, it's going to be all of them. But for the other ones, we're going to change that. Also, maintain offset has to be off. This and this. Whoop. On to the next one. Let me see where your rotate is at. Okay, so let's delete these connections between rotate Y and rotate Z. And then in our parent constraint options, we're going to do not rotate all, only Y and Z. From here to here. God knows why this works. Next one. So don't ask me why this works. It just does, bruh. Sometimes that's how it is. Let's see how IK is doing. Ooh. IK, please. Yeah, it works now. I mean, I have to adjust the skinning, but yeah. I have trouble deciding whether or not I should cut these parts out, like these parts where I have trouble with a setup or when I run into an issue. But honestly, it's just part of the job, so I don't want to cut it out because a lot of times you're gonna run into these issues as well. So if you want to be a rigger, you really have to learn how to troubleshoot this stuff and where to look And sometimes it's as simple as redoing something because you might have missed some step along the way. And when I was troubleshooting this, I went through every node possible and I tried to check what their inputs were to see if there was. Oh! Oh, my baby! Are you okay? My cat just fell off the table. Oh, baby, I'm sorry. So my thought process for the issue was, okay, when I move the leg around and it looked something like this, right? So I thought, okay, there's something wrong with the skinning. Is the skinning glitched? And then I redid the skinning, nothing changed. So I thought, okay, the bind joints are the joints that hold the skinning information. So let me check the inputs on those joints in the node editor. And I didn't notice anything strange. But eventually I realized, oh, maybe the way that I created those connections between the rotate Y and Z, that's what's causing this issue. And that's when I tried the parent constraint instead of connecting it directly in the node editor, and that worked. So when you come across issues, it's important to think logically, to try to figure out where they're coming from and avoid wasting your time.